am, this is me. Nothing, everything, can't you see?
This is Sanam Media, and you are tuned into the Miriam Makunda Show.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miriam Makunda Show, and we are also live on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. If you have any comments, queries, questions, or suggestions, you can send them to us on our WhatsApp line on 061 766 0355. Alternatively, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. All right, so with the schools plan to reopen, well, some of the schools have already reopened, and students have been making their way to school, the grade 7s and matriculants. Parents also have been returning to work. Those parents who still have work to go to have been going to work. But now the question of early childhood development centers comes about, like, why are ECDs still closed, and when will they reopen? Parents have returned to work, yet they have left their kids at home to be, some of them by themselves, others looked after by strangers or neighbors. And, you know, we don't know what is going to happen to our kids when we go to work and we leave them at home by themselves or with strangers whom we don't really know. This lockdown has changed the way we look at things and the way we do things. But, well, when it comes to ECDs, we still need our kids to be looked after, to be taught, etc., etc. So Jenny Milton de Kock is joining me on the line to talk about the ECDs open, and she's actually the admin of the Help SA ECDs to Open campaign. Thank you for joining me, Jenny, and hello to you.
Meet you. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure. So ECDs have been closed since March the 17th, and there is no word on when they will reopen. So what is this campaign calling for?
I think what we're really calling for is a date. We understand that the Department of Social Services has got a lot of work to do. It's important that when our children do go back, that they are safe, that they are protected. I think for us is the uncertainty, because ECD centers the topic of ECD centers has been largely ignored. Very, very little has come out. So our parents are sitting, nobody knows, has any knowledge of even a suspected date, or maybe this could happen, or maybe that could happen. And then they only started discussing, they did work streams, which I think is a fantastic idea, but this only started happening 2 weeks ago. So why wait all this time to then discuss getting your most vulnerable members of your society back into their safe places? So we are asking, give us a date, number one. And number two, the fact that the ECD centers on primary schools are allowed to open on the 6th of July. Why, if we are ready, can we also not open on the same date? To me, that's not fair. Some children are going to be educated and looked after again, and other children are going to be left out. So this is the reason for our campaign. We want a date. We want to know, when are we going back?
And yes, like you mentioned, this issue has been widely ignored. I remember when the Minister of Basic Education, Angie Motshekga, was given her address on when schools will reopen. She was asked about ECDs, and they basically did not mention anything, and just brush it under the carpet for later. Like, oh, it's kind of like we will cross that bridge when we get to it. But majority of our kids don't have anywhere to go to during when we return to work. Many of them are still at home, and we are finding some ECDs opening their doors just so that they can accommodate some of these parents who have to return to work. But for them as well, they do need to open and to stay open. Now, how necessary are ECDs? I mean, we are seeing, or we have seen, many informal ECDs opening, unregistered ECDs having to close their doors because of their being not registered. But there is a large number of people opening up ECDs. So how important and necessary are they?
Look, ECD centres are extremely important, and the monitoring of ECD centres is also extremely important. I think it's wonderful that social services is going to be coming down more, checking where they are, more checkups done. But this is not the time. We need to get our children back into their safe places, then carry on, continue to monitor, visit, do whatever, but you can't. Those things should have been in place already before. So ECD centres, they provide so much for the children. Some of them, it's their safe haven. They are escaping situations at home. I won't go into, I'm sure you've already, mentioned quite a few, but some of them get their only meal a day at the ECD centre. You get the love. By far the majority of people working in ECD centres just love their children. The children get their love, they get educated. All those basic skills that are needed before they go to school are done in the first 6 years of their lives. So an ECD centre is an absolute necessity for our children.
Now, what threats or dangers does the continued closure of ECDs pose to children and the ECD sector itself?
Okay, so we're getting reports in because of our platform where people are telling us about children who are getting left with siblings, for example. I saw a horrific photograph of a child that was burnt because the siblings only 10, 11 years old. How do they know? And is it fair on them to leave these little ones? But a parent has to make a decision. Am I going to feed to my child, or am I going to go leave my child maybe with the older sister or next door neighbor that I don't know? Or, it can be anybody. Is my child left running around on the streets all day? Do I even know what is happening to my child? And sadly, it is the most vulnerable children, because we also have people who are leaving their children behind to go and work and look after other people's children in their homes. And, it's crazy. These children need to be where we need to be trusted to keep them safe. We've done it for years. Our protocols are in place. We look at all the things, hand washing. We look at using paper towels. We look at cleaning the surfaces all the time. We've been doing that all along. So our ECD centres need to open. If they don't open, we're going to face a huge crisis already. I can tell you today, I've had 3 people contact me to tell me they're closing their schools down because they just cannot afford to keep going. Parents, a lot of them would love to continue paying school fees. They cannot pay for somebody to look after their child at home, as well as school fees. Some of them have lost their jobs. We're losing absolutely professional teachers as well, because some of the schools have not even received their TERS payments yet. So these teachers are working so hard at the moment, and what's happening? We're losing them because they need to go and actually make some money. So the impact, I think, when the dust settles and we wipe our eyes, all these schools with these passionate owners, passionate teachers, you just cannot beat the love of an ECD centre. It's going to be gone. It's going to be no more. And what are we going to do then?
And like you mentioned earlier, that it's so necessary because the ECDs, it's like the child's first stepping stone to getting to school, to the school environment. And when now that they are home during the lockdown, they have no friends that they can interact with and engage with and play with. It's no use calling their friends over the phone and having little play date. It's not the same as actually being in the room with your friends. I know my daughter would go to ECD, and when she'd come home, she'd be talking about her friends who did this and who did that. And well, back then she was under the age of 2, and now that she's 2 and she can talk a little bit more, and she was like a bigger sibling to the younger kids that were there. And I can tell that she misses that. She still talks about her friends, but well, what now? Because we can't take her there. I'm working from home for now, but sooner or later I am going to return to the studio. And what happens to my child then? Who am I going to get to look after her? I can't trust my neighbors with her because I've seen that they are irresponsible people. But what then?
I think the saddest thing you touched on is, they're used to their friends, they're used to the socializing. And I think the emotional impact this lockdown has had on our children has been really severely underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting reports from parents of children who are having tantrums, who've never had tantrums before, children who are suddenly sleeping back in their parents' beds at night, children who have actually withdrawn, which somehow to me is even worse. They've become like little shadows. And this emotional impact is really, really, really not, it's something that we're going to have to face for a long time. And I know I'm speaking for a lot of owners, and that those of them who can afford it have actually
Mm-hmm.
been doing courses so that we can help these children when they come back with all the emotional issues that are arising. Anger is a big one. These children are hearing their parents. All the fears are there, and they just don't know what to do with all these bottled up emotions.
Mhm. Earlier on, you spoke of the cleaning, how ECDs have always been teaching kids to wash their hands and to wipe and clean their surfaces. But now, what about the issue of wearing face masks and social distancing? I mean, that is not something easy that kids can just get into doing.
It's not, but never underestimate the creativity of an ECD teacher or an ECD owner.
Mhm.
We haven't got guidelines, we haven't got procedures. This is also the thing that's really getting to us. Let us into our schools,
Mhm.
tell us what we need to do so that we can be ready when we are open. And we are anticipating, and we are guessing and looking at other things and working out for ourselves what we think is going to be needed. I think of some of us may even be going a little bit overboard. I know in my school we're putting in 12 extra hand washing stations, and the thermometer, for example, I've taken felt and I've put it around my thermometer and turned my thermometer into a flower. We're going to play games. My teachers are already doing Zoom lessons with their children with masks on and shields on. And we're going to be astronauts. We're going back to school. We're going to paint little birds all over the place, 1 meter apart, tiny little birds so that they can stand on the little bird. And, we're going to try and turn it into a game as much as we can. Obviously, when they come in, it's going to be very different. They've been away for all this time. They're going to get to the gate. What's going to happen? Whoever's bringing them to school is going to have their temperature taken. The child's going to have their temperature taken. Depending on the way it's done, maybe a little hat with a shield put on. We find that's probably going to be the easiest. And then from there, mom and dad or whoever fills in a form, and they're not going to be allowed on the property. Now your child has to walk on a mat that cleans the shoes. Maybe bags get left outside. They've got to sanitize their hands. They go in. Even if they're just going to the bathroom, they're going to have to stand a meter apart. So as ECD owners, principals, educators, most of us have been working hard behind the scenes, chatting to each other, forming groups. How are we going to make this fun? How are we going to do it? But another thing people underestimate is how well behaved our children actually are. They're used to listening to us. Go and stand there. Whereas children in primary school, whatever, as soon as teachers' eyes are not there, maybe the mask comes off or things like that. I was speaking to a lady yesterday who says that she's actually making a little pod where they can go into the little, when I say a little pod, it's like a little mushroom thing on the floor out in the end of the playground, where if a child's desperate, they can go and take their shield off because there's nobody around them. There's just plants and things like that. So we can keep them safe, and we can make it fun. And when I say we can keep them safe, nobody can stop everything, but we can have all the procedures in place so that we are microfogging our schools. We are wiping surfaces. We are sanitizing. The children are continuing to wash their hands. Ask any preschool and you will find out that they've got their own special song for washing their hands already. Things like that. So, yeah, these kids need to go back and be where they can be looked after, protected, and fed.
Now, I'm sure many parents who have heard that have been put at ease knowing that when their child does return back to their ECDs, then they will be well looked after. But then again, there are some ECDs who at this point cannot really afford to implement all of those measures. What can they do in that case?
That is something that we've discussed a lot. And we were saying it's a big pity that we're not partnered with schools. So some of the more affluent schools could actually assist the schools that have maybe not got the means. But just simple soap and water is what we keep getting told. The virus does not live. It's, the soap and water kills it. So you don't really need all the fancy things. Hopefully, the social services will be providing them with PPEs. I personally feel that we should be given a choice. They should say to us, do you want us to provide you or not, so that there's enough for the people who really need it. People are getting very, very creative. I've seen people who've made their own sanitizer dispensers with the little pedal foot just out of poles and pipes that join together and things like that. So yes, I do think that it is an issue. I do, but I think it's an issue everywhere. It's an issue in the primary schools. It's probably even an issue in shops in those areas, But at the end of the day, let us also help them, because it's a big, big burden on social development. Identify the schools that say that they are ready now, visit them now, and then say, can you advise these schools, or let us all work together to make it as safe as possible, because no child, as they keep saying, should be left behind. And at this moment, the fact that the ECD centers on the primary schools are allowed to go back, what is happening? The rest of our children are being left behind.
Exactly. So since you are calling to help South Africa's ECD centers to reopen, how can people get involved?
Well, at this stage, we've got our Facebook page. So how this all started was I actually formed a WhatsApp group. I put it out on social media because we all felt we were getting no information from the start. Even when the schools were told to close, the preschools were phoning each other, does that apply to us or not? Because in some countries, the ECD center stayed open throughout the whole lockdown. So I'm talking before lockdown. I'm talking when we first closed in March. We were getting no answers. Nobody was sending us anything and saying, you also need to close, whatever. So I started this group, and, we've been helping each other and chatting, and it's a group across all cultures. We've got some schools that the ladies every now and then put data on their phones to talk to us, this kind of thing, and some in the more affluent areas. And then we actually decided to write a letter together. And a few of us sent it out, and that letter is what has gone viral. So off that letter, we have formed our Facebook group where people are starting to get stories in, and the media is starting to take note. I think you found us through the Facebook page. We've had another interview, and I believe that there's a couple of articles going to be written, and that. So we want people's stories. I do get a lot of private messages. We're busy setting up a website because we want this to carry on forward. We don't just want to be now, let's end lockdown, let's go back. Okay, that's it. We've discovered that a lot of people who wanted to be fully registered or, didn't know about the health, how to receive food safely and how to store food in schools and things like that. So we're looking at setting up a free forum. You don't pay for anything, where we help to also train and help to get schools that are set up, that do anything involved. We can't do it alone. To get the whole ECD, I suppose to say to get the ECD centers united across the board. So yes, we need social development. Social development is there for a very, very good reason. They do need to inspect the schools. They do need to have certain standards, but they've got us to call on. They've got us that are prepared to assist, use us, because we all want the best for our children out there, that we are happy to help others to give the best to the children out there. So
all right. So is it just a Facebook page that people can follow and share the articles on?
At this stage, yes. The website will be launched soon.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time, Jenny. And I hope that government can give us an answer as to when ECDs can reopen, because I mean, we need it as parents. We need our ECDs, and we can't do it without you. It's a relationship that we have built along the years, from our when we were younger to our kids now. So it's not something that just started yesterday or before the lockdown. It has been an ongoing thing, and an ongoing relationship. So we need each other, and we need government to step up and at least give us a date. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing that information, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us this platform to get our message across. Thanks very much.
It's a pleasure. All right. So if you want to help South Africa's ECD centers to reopen, visit their Facebook page, Help South Africa's ECD Centers Reopen. And if you are a parent who's just unsure of where to keep your child during the lockdown, at least find a trusted person, a family member, maybe somebody who can really assist you, or I don't know, maybe you can speak to your ECD center and find out if it's possible for them to assist you out during this difficult time. I know it is difficult. Even paying the fees is challenging with a lot of retrenchments and people losing their jobs. It's not something that is going to be easy. But government, please tell us, let us know, when will ECDs open? When can they open? Because this silence means consent thing is no, we need answers, something concrete, something on paper to tell us that ECDs have gotten the go ahead and can reopen. If you have any comments on this topic, do send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 061 766 0355. Alternatively, you can leave the comments in the comment section below. For now, just stay with us. We will be right back.